Okay, hi. I wanted to do a couple of YouTube tutorials on Photoshop just to show people who are brand new to the software what the basics are and how you can do very basic things. Because when I do a search on YouTube for Photoshop stuff, I seem to get this massive array of conflicting information and different ways of doing things and very complicated principles. So what I wanted to do is go through some very basic aspects of Photoshop and different elements of Photoshop and what it does. So what we'll do is we'll start in this first one just looking at adjusting levels on a shot and also looking at cropping, and we'll leave it there. I'm going to keep these nice and short so they're not crazy long, but what I'm going to do is got a picture here of a chipmunk that I took in Fuerteventura, in one of the Canary Islands, and it's quite a nice picture. It's got a nice blurred out sort of front element. This rock here in the front is nice and blurred. The subject, the chipmunk, is nice and sharp, and the background, the sort of rock in the background, is nice and blurred again, so it's quite clear what the subject is. There's a couple of things. The photograph at the moment looks a little bit overexposed, a little bit light, so in order to make a change to the image, we're not going to go into layers or anything complicated on this one. We'll do that in a later one. But in order to do the changes that we're going to cover on this one, if you just want to balance the light in an image, I'll just show you a quick way of doing that. So you go Image, Adjustments, and Levels. And what this does, it brings up a histogram. And a histogram effectively is a graph, or a graph, that shows how the light is processed within the image. So here you can see a graph going from the left side to the right side. The left side is the dark side of the image, and the light side, the white side, is the light side of the image. So what you can see here, if I adjust these little arrows, you can see the image gets darker as I move that arrow, and if I adjust this arrow, it gets lighter as I move the arrow, as we mess about the information contained within the histogram. The middle arrow is the mid-tones, or the grey tones, in the image. So again, you can see it getting lighter and darker as I move the arrows. If you don't want to mess about with the arrows, there's a wonderful button here called Auto, which automatically balances the image. And as I thought, it was a little bit overexposed, so by just pressing Auto, I've pulled down the exposure a little bit and balanced the colours, and that looks a lot nicer now. Okay, that's one thing I wanted to show you. Second thing I wanted to show you, got a nice image here, but there's far too much boring stuff on the right hand side here, and probably a little bit on the other side. So if I wanted to make an 8 by 10 print of this, an 8" by 10" print, what I would do is I would click on this crop symbol here, this symbol here, right click on the width, and I can change that to inches, and I actually want it 8 inches wide, and I want it 10 inches high. And I click OK. Alright, and just click off like that. You've got this black, your mouse cursor, you'll notice, has changed to this black crop tool. And what we can do is we can draw an image, and by defining up here, it automatically tells you what sort of size the image is. So it forces you to stay within the parameters of an 8 by 10 image. So if we were to print that at 8 by 10, that's the shape that we would need, or we can make it a little bit bigger, or a little bit bigger, or a little bit bigger, and to actually the size that we want. The lines on the graph, lines on this crop chart, it's called the rule of thirds, and it's worth looking up on Wikipedia. And effectively what it is it's a compositional guide, and to keep things very simple, where these lines cross over, so here and here and here and here, are considered artistically to be the most dramatic parts of the image. So it's a good idea, if you can, to sit your subject over where these lines intersect, and what it does is it creates a slightly more visually pleasing image, and it's good. So there's our finished image. Just pressed enter there just to crop the image, and yeah, and we've got a finished 8 by 10 print. If I want to print that now, or if I want to save that image, I simply go to File, Save As, just like you would in any other thing. I'll button it on the desktop and just call it whatever I want to call it, chipmunk. I get a little dialog box when I press save that asks me what quality I want to save it as. So if I want to save it as a really little file, a poor quality file, correspondingly a poor quality file is smaller, so it will only be 89.5 kilobytes. A full quality file in this case would be just under a meg, because I've just cropped out a megabyte. I've just cropped out a load of information, so we've got quite a small image. It's only 8 by 10, so if I was going to print this I'd want to keep it at that maximum quality. Click OK, close it down here, and then when I show the desktop, there's our picture of the chipmunk right there. So that's it. I hope you enjoyed it. Put any comments underneath the video, and I'll do another one soon. Cheers.